transition. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Taking a break from the old transformer today. Make sure you check out this video because it's much more interesting than that video. So that being said, today we are going to learn how to do a basic mold from scratch, edited video, super clean. Everything you're going to need, all the products, all the skills, half the time, a third the fun. So I'm going to switch to a close-up camera. Nobody cares what I look like, but this is the important stuff. So that being said, sweet transition. So what you're going to need is a piece of pine. See how I've sliced it end to end. This was one continuous piece of pine at one point. So as you can see, it was one continuous piece of pine. Now we took this piece of pine and we sliced it into a base piece for our part to sit on. End pieces out of the same piece of pine so that they fit perfectly. Now the reason that we've done this is I could have cut from the pine this way and measured it, measured here and made the end piece, and a lot of people do that, but you don't need to as long as you use the inline piece of pine. So I've used this and this. Need to chop this off of here. Got a little piece of plastic stuck on it from the last mold. So end-to-end pieces of pine. Now, I'm going to go back to the close-up mode because that's what's most important. So the part is going to be positioned and clayed down onto this part. In this scenario, I don't really need to clay it down. What I have here is a flat part. I really don't care so much about the opposite side of this. I'm going to make it two-sided, but I'm going to lay it down as if it's just a one-sided part. So if it's plastic or something you can throw away, you will just use a basic super glue. You can use Gorilla super glue, or you can use just about anything. In my case, I am going to use, or try to use, a screw. So I can put a screw to the back of this piece of wood, straight into my part, and screw it down. So I could clay it or I could glue it. In this case, because I'm going to teach you how to do it, I'm going to clay it. So the first step is to get the clay down. Now the clay is from Alumilite. It's their basic modeling clay or mold making clay. I need to make a low flat cover for this entire piece of wood. Now it's easier to flatten it and do it in your hands and not try to make it a consistent thickness while it's already laid down. So I'm going to get it fairly flat here so I know how thick it is. Need to get it all laid out. And this is the worst part. This will probably be a fast speed time-lapse video because no one really wants to see this part. The reason that I don't care so much for the live streams right now is because most of this stuff is super boring. I probably won't even use this audio. This audio is more for me to understand what's going on when I get ready to do the voiceover. So I'm pretty much done with the live streams or worrying about it unless there's things that people want to learn and ask questions. Otherwise, the live streams just become my tutorial videos. So if you want to see the live stream, or if you want to see the tutorial video before it's a tutorial video and get ahead of everybody by a few days, the live stream is your best bet. But it's going to take you considerably more time watching than just waiting for the tutorial video, because the tutorial video will be 2 to 4 minutes. This one will probably be 15 to 20. So once you have this all clayed up, you're going to use a cheap petroleum jelly, dollar store, and I'm going to smooth it all. And what this does is it allows me to get a really nice smooth clay here. This actually mixes with the clay. And once it's mixed with the clay, it becomes sort of a bluish hue, because the clay is probably a petroleum base, just like this is. But this softens it up a little, and it allows me to get a nice smooth texture here. And most importantly, it will release easier once I'm done if I put petroleum jelly on this. So I'm going to just take my finger and just keep trying to smooth all these bumps out and try to get this base piece as smooth as possible before I put my part down. Now my part is flat on the bottom, and I know it's flat, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to make sure that this piece is pretty flat. And that'll give me an idea of what I need to do to make it a little flatter. So now I know I have a fairly flat little surface there. Finish my smooth out. I can see where it's touched, so we're pretty good in this scenario. So now my part goes down. Now, because this is going to be just a one-piece mold, I'm just going to press it partially in, and I'm not going to care too much about the seal. I'm going to get a little bit of a mold line on the bottom, so I'm going to brush up around it. And most importantly, I'm going to make sure that I can't see under it. There's no separation. In this corner, I can see under it right now. So I'm going to push it up and in so I can't see under it. And then I'm going to brush it around. I want just a nice clean edge line all the way around my part where I cannot see under it. And right now, I'm feeling pretty good about it. So, once you have your part in the clay properly, the next step is to clean the clay off of the edge with an X-Acto or anything with an edge. You can use a ruler, anything you want. Even a paper clip will work. But I want this edge to be sealed in properly, so I need to get the extra clay off of here. I'm going to pour this part from this side. I've kept around a ½ inch to 1 inch on all sides so that the clay, or so the plastic, can't leak out. Now, I think my audio stream is a little low, so hopefully you guys can hear me if you're watching live. So in this scenario, we have the part exactly where we want it. The next step is to put keys into my plastic, or into my clay. So I'm going to key this on all 4 corners. What this does is it ensures that the mold goes together properly. Now if I would have glued this down, I wouldn't be able to press keys in. I will show you an alternate way to make the keys when I flip the mold. We don't care if these keys keep a perfect round, but we do care that the part is not getting pressed up anywhere. That's the most important part right now. So that's enough keys. We now have the part laid down, ready for silicone. I'm going to do one more check all the way around and one more swipe with my finger all the way around and make sure that I haven't had the part push up or press up at all. And in this case, it looks pretty good. It looks sealed. So now we take these end pieces that I spoke about and we lay these here for your mold box. We make sure that it's fairly cleared off, and we lay this here for the mold box. So, to put the mold box together, we use a clamp. And the clamp is just an Irwin squeeze clamp. So what happens here is as I clamp this together, it grips. Now I have about 20 or 30 of these that I use, but in this case, this is the most important clamp. You'll probably need an 8 to 12 incher and maybe some 24 inchers and maybe some little tiny ones in your mold shop. But really, 1 or 2 of these is essential to making these medium-sized parts. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp this on this side first, right on this piece of wood. Once it's clamped, I'm going to press this other side up to make sure that it's closed and sealed in as tight as possible. I do not want any leakage or seepage on the side of the part. So I need the second mold clamp, and I put that on. As you can see, the clamps have clamped everything down and it's very secure and it's not going to come off. Everything now is ready for something to be poured on top of it. So now, the last step is to seal all the edges here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press this down. I'm going to press this. Instead of being flat, instead of pulling flat, I'm going to pull it at an angle and it's going to push it up to the left. So I'm going to pull this at a slight angle all the way around and just build it up on the outside of this box. This is going to keep the silicone from leaking down and out of the box. And that angle is like a snow plow, and it forces it outwards. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. This is just how I do it. I don't like the clay to seep down. Once the clay seeps down, or I'm sorry, once the silicone seeps down around the clay, then your mold box on your flip doesn't quite fit right. We don't want that, so we're going to take the time to clean this up and seal all the way around this mold. Then the last thing we're going to do is, as we push down and squish this, we took a little bit of silicone or of petroleum jelly, Vaseline, out. So I'm taking a little extra clay here and I'm kind of squeegeeing it into this corner because it didn't seal all the way. And now the mold box is about as sealed as it's going to get, and it's ready for Vaseline. So I'm sculpting in the rest of this line. It looks pretty clean. I'm going to put a little Vaseline on this edge all the way around. Now this edge, because it's got this sort of a sliding gap, if for some reason the silicone tries to leak when I'm making this part, if it tries to leak, that little edge will prevent it from leaking all the way out. So at this point, you're ready to pour silicone. So the silicone we're going to use is Polytech. This silicone is new to my shop. I haven't used it very often. It's Plasticil 7345. See if I can get you a picture of it. So Plasticil 7345 silicone rubber is what I'm going to use to create the rest of this mold box. So, switch cameras. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to find a mold that's roughly the same size as what I'm going to make. It's probably this one. So this mold piece is really close to the size of this mold piece. So this is about how much silicone I need. So I'm going to test how much it weighs first. It's going to give me an idea of how much silicone is actually necessary. So that weighs 220. I'm going to put this back where fresh silicone can't touch it. So now we're going to mix up just a little bit of silicone in a mixing cup. Now silicone is mixed. I know the light's hard to see in here, but the silicone is mixed by weight. So I'm going to put 220 into this, and then I'm going to pour 22 of the catalyst into it. I'm going to give you a close-up of the catalyst when I get ready to do it. I'm going to switch to here so you can watch the weighing. So, this is just a basic scale you can get from Walmart. I need to wipe it off because I've got a little liquid plastic on it from something I was working on earlier. And you don't want to ruin your scale. It sucks to have to go spend 25 bucks, 20 bucks on it all the time when it's your fault you lose it. So, I'm going to take the scale and I'm going to weigh it so that it's right side up for you. Be upside down for me, but right side up. So I turn it on. The mode is grams. Okay? So the way this is going to work is I'm going to get 220-ish grams of silicone into this cup. And if you're wondering why the video is so weird edit-wise, because I intend to edit this so I'm making very distinct shots as I go along. To find out how much silicone I have in this cup, I'm first going to weigh this cup, and it's 33, so I do that. Now it's going to take 33 off of my total weight. So this one weighs 260, so this is going to be a little extra, but I'm going to go ahead and use this because I can use any extra silicone in this to test other things in my shop to make sure that they'll be okay when I pour silicone on them. I'll explain that as I go here. So now this is 263. I'm sorry, 363. So I have 100 more than I need actually. I'm going to take some of that out. So I put a little bit back in, still 300. Take some more. I don't mind a little extra, but I don't need a lot extra. I don't need to waste silicone. Silicone gets expensive really fast. So that's 270, that'll be fine. So that means I need to put 27 into here. I'm going to do one more wipe off here because I already had it on the stick. So we are now at 256. So I need 25.6. So I'm going to use the Plasticil 7345 silicone. I'm going to do is I know that I'm going to test this because it's always better to measure twice, pour and cut once. But I'm going to test this one more time. And I can see it's still negative 34. I'm going to reposition this and make sure 256, so I'm perfect. So I'm going to tear this again, or zero it. Now I need to put 256, so 25.6, so around 25 in. If I pour too much, which I didn't, I'm going to put a little extra in. If I had poured too much, I can just pour that out into a cup and start again rather than wasting all the silicone or adding more silicone or whatever. So now I need to mix this up until it's thoroughly blended and the right color.
Three seconds later.
So obviously you won't have to watch most of this in the video, but I'm going to give you an idea. I need to scrape the sides, scrape the stick until it's clear, scrape the sides and scrape the bottom. I need to do that about 3 to 4 times until I'm certain that all my silicone is no longer striped, no longer has any white in it, because the white is what's going to get you here. So my whole goal here is to get rid of all the extra white. Exactly the opposite of Donald Trump. That wasn't very nice. But I don't care for Trump much, so all I care, I'll teach anybody anything as long as you keep the Trump speak out of the channel. How's that? So now I've got a nice, consistently mixed silicone. Now you'll notice in the silicone that there are bubbles in it. Now I should what's called degas this. That's take my pump and suck all the extra air out. However, I don't have my degasser set up, and this silicone is one of those premium silicones that's nice and thin that you can get away with not degassing it. But if you do degas it, you're going to have much better luck and get a lot more pores out of your silicone. In other words, you'll be able to make more parts before it goes bad. So now I've got silicone, you can see all the bubbles. I'm going to pour along the edge of the part and not directly on the part. Never on the part, always around the outside. What this is going to do is this is going to allow the part to be properly covered without any raw silicone dropping on it and without it creating air bubbles. If I let it slowly move, now you can see a little white drip there, I saw it. I'm going to get that out of there. If that had poured on the part, it would have made a part that never cured. I don't know where it came from because I didn't see it on mixing, but that was a bad thing. So now I'm slowly going to mix and keep watching my silicone and make sure that everything that pours out of here is nicely mixed. I'm going to keep pouring from this side also. I'm not worried about moving it around. It will find its center, find its level. It's going to be just about the right amount of silicone. It's going to give me about 3/8 to 1/2 an inch above the part, which is perfect. It'll be nice and thin on one side. I can squeeze it nice and tight. It's perfection. Now I'm going to do something you normally wouldn't do. I'm going to take the extra silicone from the sides. I'm going to drip it down here, but I know I mixed it well. You shouldn't do this your first couple times. It's a bad idea to pour out unmixed silicone onto your part. So I'm putting just a little extra here. It's going to drop straight down this side. It's no big deal. So that's all that's necessary to make your first silicone mold. This is essentially the first half of a one piece. When I'm done with this, I can pour this as just one side and it will work on my part. But I will also do the second half of this mold in case you want to make a two-part mold. So that's what we got for the day. That's all we're doing. This video is the first part of my succinct series on molds. Stay tuned as we get through this mold and the rest of the parts. We're going to actually build Boba Fett's entire blaster out of all the pieces. Be cool, be kind, be true to yourself, be somebody, and if you can't, be somebody else on Halloween. Deuces.